I'm done talking. Hello, I'm Bill Malik. I am the co-chair of the Portland's Climate Reality Chapter. And thank you for coming this month. We've taken kind of the summer off. Hope you all had a good summer. But we're going to continue our monthly Zoom calls for the foreseeable future, maybe until the next summer rolls around. But this summer we felt people needed a little break from Zooming. So we are talking about getting back to physical meetings, though that doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon for obvious reasons. So I think for next month, we'll be back on Zoom again. We'll give you guys an update on how that's all going to work out. So for tonight, we have some updates. We've kind of organized it all, the meeting in terms of international updates, some national updates, and then some local chapter updates. We have several speakers to come and enlighten us. And I'd like Amy, if you could introduce Frank and let Frank take it away on the international front.
Great. I am happy to introduce Frank Granshaw. He is a retired community college geoscience teacher, a glacial geologist, and in his own words, an insufferably proud grandpa. He is currently having a new career doing climate education and advocacy. This has included teaching climate at PSU, developing climate curriculum, citizen lobbying with Union of Concerned Scientists and the American Geophysical Union, and involvement with Greater Portland Sustainability Education Network, GIPSN, and the Creation Justice Program at Ecumenical Ministries of Oregon. He and his wife, Annette Carter, have been observers at COPs 23 and 24, and they are presently registered to go to Glasgow for COP 26 next month, representing Quaker Earth Care witnesses. So thank you for speaking with us.
Okay. Well, hello everyone, and thank you for having me here. First thing I'm gonna do is push the return on the chat, and there will be a web address in there that is the web address for what I'm just about ready to share, which is presentation media. So my first question is, can everybody see that okay? Good.
Yes.
I like that. Okay, so as it said, as the sign says there, I'm going to talk about local opportunities for international engagement. This has a little bit of history on it, but I'm going to unpack that as I go. What I'm going to aim for is, I remember, Amy, correctly, you said about 20 minutes here. So I'm going to aim for I've got about 20 minutes for a talk and for also to entertain questions. And so I want to try to keep my comments relatively brief, provide enough framework to certainly for a discussion, but try to give a fair amount of time for, if you will, some brainstorming. Okay, so first thing I should point out here is I don't use PowerPoint. I use something called Prezi, and so it does a few things a little different than PowerPoint, which is it's not slides. It's actually you make these posters where you can zoom in and zoom out. It's a lot of fun to do, but it's a little hard to get used to the first time. Anyway, 3 topics I want to cover tonight. Some key ideas, a little bit of background about the international climate action. I imagine some of you have a fair amount of background, maybe even more than I do, in terms of the international climate situation, in terms of the UN. Some of you, it may be alphabet soup. But in any case, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And then the last thing I want to point out down here is get into some opportunities for local engagement. So let's zoom right in on the key ideas. And I got about 4 of them here that I want to share with you tonight. The first one is we're in a situation here that's kind of unique. We've had nearly a year and a half of a global pandemic, rather devastating and record extreme weather events, as well as some rather uncomfortable political and economic upsets. So there's a lot of things in motion. In that context, you have the global community meeting this November. Actually, the conference starts on Halloween, on the 31st, and goes through the 12th of November. But the United Nations conference this year, COP26, will be in Glasgow, Scotland. And I'm hoping by the time that I finish going to Scotland, I'll be able to pronounce Glasgow right. Anyway, yeah. Now, one of the things that's interesting here is UN Secretary Antonio Guterres described very well what this upcoming conference is, which is essentially a make it or break it time, where we either move into some new and needed directions, or we go back to the old normal, which leaves a rather unpleasant legacy for folks like my grandkids, which is not something I care to leave them. And I'm sure many of us don't either. Now, conferences like COP26, and I'll unpack what those initials mean here shortly, are high level. They're oftentimes hard to access. It takes quite a while to be able to get in, to be able to get your credentials to attend, excuse me, attend one of these conferences, and it can be a bit expensive. But that being said, one thing a theme that keeps showing up over and over and over again at these conferences is the absolute necessity of expanding grassroots understanding and involvement. If what is happening at those conferences is to have a chance at succeeding. And trust me, it can be a very frustrating process to watch what happens in the negotiations. Now, just a little comment down here is this poster, and the reason that I gave you the link for it is it's actually a gateway for some background about the international process, as well as some resources for becoming involved in it from a distance. So that's why I passed out that web address. Okay, Sue, let's see. Come on, cooperate with me. So we'll go over here to, come on, boy. There we go. So a few quick comments about the international climate process, then I'll explain that little icon over in the right-hand corner. First of all, what COP26 means. One thing I should warn you about being involved with any UN process, be prepared to deal with alphabet soup to the nth degree. And so starting with COP26, that actually means the 26th conference of the parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. The Unf Triple C is actually a treaty. It's oftentimes people confuse the Unf Triple C Secretariat with Unf Triple C. The Secretariat is the UN agency that, if you will, administers the treaty. Unf Triple C is the treaty. It's actually, the official word on it was it's an international climate treaty that has its origins back in a Rio de Janeiro summit. The original wording was that it was aimed at combating, quote, dangerous human interference with the Earth's climate system. One of the most recent iterations of it, because we've had 25 separate conferences leading up to this point, all having to do with the treaty. But in COP21, which is the 21st of the COPs, the Paris Accords were drafted. And this built upon the original treaty by setting temperature targets, emission reduction commitments, and also, most importantly, mechanisms for increased reduction ambition. Because if anybody remembers what the temperature targets were, the Eiffel Tower had the big 2.0 and neon lights on the tower. And what that essentially means is that 197 countries were committing themselves to keeping average global temperature in the year 2100 to no more than 2.0 degrees above the pre-industrial averages. That's about 1790. The aspiration, however, was to make it as close to 1.5 as possible. That is becoming more and more of a serious aspiration, particularly after the most recent Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report that came out in August. The important thing about COP26 and the year 2020, which is when it was supposed to occur, excuse me for just a minute, is that COP26 was to be the point at which the discussion of increased ambition and trying to realign what's called the nationally declared commitments, or nationally, I've heard different translations of it, but what's called NDCs that each country brought to the table. 2020 and COP26 was when those NDCs would be adjusted to actually achieve the 1.5 to 2.0 commitment. Because what everybody brought to the table in 2015 was sufficient to bring us to about somewhere in the neighborhood of anywhere from about 2.7 up to about 3 degrees above pre-industrial average. So better than 4.5, but not as good as it needed to be. So yeah, and really quickly, this little icon over here, it says something for the curious. Down below, it's a link, and this is a link for a another topic, another presentation that I did, which has a lot more links to it to give you background about the Unf Triple C, the International Panel for Climate Change, the history of climate research, where we are in terms of what such things as the World Meteorological Organization's State of the Climate Report is saying. So anyway, that's there, and I'd invite you sometime at your leisure to go through and take a look at that. Okay, so let's see, come on, boy. So let's get down to opportunities for local engagement. I'm gonna give you a little history on this. As Amy pointed out, my wife and I have been observers at COPs 23 and 24. We almost attended COP 25, but that was a unique UN climate conference. As if you tracked it at all, it was originally supposed to be in Brazil. Brazil changed governments. Then it was to be in Chile, and Chile had a political meltdown, so it quickly, within the space of 2 weeks, got shifted to Madrid, Spain. So needless to say, we didn't make it to that one. Instead, a number of us here in the Portland area were involved with essentially creating, if you would, watch parties. You can, by and large, attend a lot of the content of the conference virtually. This has been a tradition for the UN for nearly 10 years. Not that everything's all that fascinating at times, but it can do it. So the notion of the watch party had two gatherings, one at one at Lewis and Clark, another one at OMSI that involved 200 plus people in direct contact with folks in Madrid, as well as live panels of hearing from local activists, policymakers, etc., who are doing work in parallel with what was going on there. Anyway, some suggestions here as far as opportunities for, I'll get to this in just a minute. So first thing recommend you do is becoming knowledgeable about the Unf Triple C process. Again, that's why on the previous slide that I showed you, I've got that link over to the other presentation I did that will in fact link you over to Unf Triple C, IPCC web pages. Like I warned you, a lot of alphabet soup in all of this. So that's the first thing I would recommend. Second thing is to take advantage of emerging online opportunities associated with the conference. One thing that's unique about this particular conference is the fact that a lot of the world has had a lot of experience with Zoom now, or the equivalent. That was not true in 2019. It is true now. And so, and in fact, the UN did their first, what they call subsidiary body meeting, which usually precedes a COP. And that was entirely online. So there's a lot more opportunity to witness what's going on at these events from your own space, rather than having to spend lots of money to get there. It says down here, see the Connecting to COP25 Gateway coming up in October 2021, right over here on the right side. Can everybody see my cursor wobbling around? Yeah. So this is a website that I'm working on right now because of the fact that the decision amongst those of us who did the virtual bridge to COP25 back in 2019 was that the kind of physical gatherings we did in 2019 just really wouldn't be tremendously safe at this point. And so the idea here is instead to create a link, is to create a website that condenses those online opportunities into one space. My wife described dealing with any of the UN climate events as particularly attending a COP, going through the exhibit halls, attending the meetings, as drinking water from a fire hose. And that is certainly true when you look at the assortment of online opportunities that come in with this. Anyway, there's a Browns, this is not yet ready because I'm waiting for web connections or actual links for activities that are getting plugged in into this database that's right there. And so again, it's kind of one-stop shopping in terms of getting connected in virtually. Another suggestion to make down here is, where safely possible, consider organizing a watch party based around these online events. This would be kind of like the virtual bridge that we did back in 2019. You need to make your best judgment on that. We have a neighbor, the neighbor that's directly in back of my office here, always has lots of people over to watch movies, and they splash a big screen on the back of their house. And so that's probably one possibility if you wanted to do something like this. And one thing that we did in the 2019 event was to include local voices, activists, researchers, policymakers, and some of those watch parties. And again, you might be able to pull off something like that virtually. And then finally, last but not least, one of the reasons why I say that having grassroots understanding and support of the Unf Triple C process is critical, is for the same reason that you go out and lobby your legislators. You need to remind them what is important to you. And so reaching out to local, state, federal officials, encouraging them to A, follow the COPs, and B, make sure they're drafting policy that makes the realization of that treaty possible. That's kind of a big nebulous goal, but nevertheless, it's an important facet of becoming aware of and of what's going on in these events. Anyway, that's probably enough of me flapping my gums on this one. And so one of the reasons I had asked to do this particular talk, and I've done this particular talk in a lot of different venues, is getting the folks who organized the last virtual bridge. We came to the decision at the end of that what we did not want to do was get into the business of organizing virtual bridges for other communities. What we wanted to do was get into the business of encouraging various communities to organize their virtual bridges. And so I've done this talk with Southwestern Climate Reality. I've done it with Quaker groups. I'm a Quaker. I've done it with science museums, etc. And that's essentially the goal here. So I want to stop talking.
There's some questions.
Yeah, Frank, can I ask a question?
Sure, go for it.
Yeah, so I'm intrigued with this witnessing component, the watch parties, and wanting to know a couple of things. Any data that might be coming from those watch parties back to those folks, meaning how many eyes are actually on these deliberations, I think could be powerful and impactful. So I'm wondering if there's anything tracked around that. And then let me just ask my second question, because it's associated with that, is what, if any, engagements with those watch parties will be facilitated? I mean, is there any methodology or means for people to interact, meaning asking questions or registering their concerns? So I'll just let you answer those.
You know, that's one of the interesting questions, because one of the wonderful things about being an in-person observer like we have is, by accident, you can sit down and have coffee next to a delegate and you can talk to them. So you can sort of do some informal lobbying. That's very, very difficult to do in a virtual setting. There have been attempts to do that. David Attenborough always is hosting what they call the people seat. And supposedly that's where people are tweeting in their responses. In the 2019, we tried a little experiment that unfortunately didn't go very far, which was to engage the people who were gathered in what's called a Talinola Dialogue, which is a decision-making process that comes from the Fiji Islands. And Fiji was actually the presidency of COP23 was from Fiji. So that's how the Talinola Dialogue got mixed in with all of this. Anyway, we did something like that with the folks gathered at the 2019 gatherings. We were hoping to, and we actually compiled a report for that, on that we were hoping we could then push up the line to, well, at that point, sending it to the US delegates was a waste of time because that was 2017. But sending it to Unf Triple C staff is always a possibility. But it's contacts I've had sort of said, you know, it's really difficult to pull that off, which is very unfortunate. Beyond that, the question of how many eyes, that's a question of whatever analytics you have on your watch party software. And right now, the Unf Triple C doesn't seem to be tabulating that. So hopefully that answers your questions.
Yeah, it does. And then it makes me think about hashtag Twitter dialogues, maybe as one way of making connections around this kind of thing. But it is unfortunate that there isn't an opportunity for real voices to be heard. But thank you, that's good.
Well, and actually one thing you said brings up something about the website, which is namely that it is, the guts of it's actually a spreadsheet that I'll be updating while I'm at COP26, and hopefully get some other folks to help me with it. And one of the things we want to do as we find exceptional events is to, when you said hashtag, that came to mind. When we have exceptional events, push it out to contact people who could be sort of like the hub of social media to say, okay, we just saw this as far as youth events. Can you push this out on your social media? So hopefully by being at the ground, we can keep track of and be feeding things to folks.
I have a bit of a question for everyone here. It kind of sounds like, I mean, I'm intrigued by a watch party, although I might rather watch paint drying. I don't know, but it sounds like fun. And I'd like to see by a show of hands on the screen, and those of you who are not on the screen, if you could just give a thumbs up on the chat. Would you, it seems like something that the Portland Climate Reality chapter should look around to see if there are watch parties, whether virtual or physical, and provide you guys with some perspective on where they are. Is that something that would be helpful? Yes, okay. Amy, yes. Oh, look at that. All right. Okay, well, I guess I just put something on the leadership team's agenda. Sorry about that, guys, but I think it's a good thing. So we'll keep in touch probably through the chapter emails where these watch parties that we're kind of trying to get hooked up with are going to be. Does that sound good? And Frank, we might come back to you for a little advice there.
Okay, and the one thing is, again, one of the other reasons I gave you the URL for this, for my presentation today, is on this particular slide, it says, watch here for the link to this gateway.
Right.
So as soon as the gateway is live and it's getting populated, I will put a link there. And
Okay.
So you can use that as a source of content.
Excellent. Any other questions for Frank while we got him here? Go, Holly. Yeah. Could you unmute? Thanks.
What about working? I think there's a couple of other climate reality groups in Oregon, are there not? Is anybody in touch with them
Yes.
about any of this?
Southwest and Bend, and
Yes.
actually the Rashenda Fairfield is person I'm on the board, EMO board with. So we've talked with her group before too. The Bend folks, they don't know.
Yeah, Holly, I think to answer your question, one of the first folks I'd want to go to is Rashinda, and the woman in Bend who is the chair there, I can't remember her name, but we should reach out to them as well. It's a good idea. Good point. Okay,
Frank, I
any
have a
other?
question.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Bernadette.
Frank, thanks for this information. Do you know if you have to watch things live, or are there going to be recorded sessions?
It's both. It's both. Pretty much all of the official events that they call side sessions. Those you got two categories of events. You got the official events, which are the side sessions, as well as the plenary sessions. Those you can either do them live, or you can also view them. You can also view them recorded. And a lot of times those recordings stay online for nearly a couple of years. There are also other events that, like for instance, I mentioned that I'm Quaker, I'm involved. There's a Quaker group, the Quaker meeting out of Glasgow is doing a whole series of events. And so that's an example of groups that are unofficially part of the COP that are doing relevant events too. Beyond that, the thing I should make mention of that is a little bit less painful than COPs 23 or 24, which were in Central Europe. This is Western Europe. So 11 o'clock in the afternoon here, or not in the afternoon, 11 o'clock in the morning here is 7 at night there. So there's actually a pretty good sized window of overlap.
Gotcha.
And I presumably there'll be, the whole program will be on the COP pages when the different sessions are. Is it your experience that the schedule's held pretty well, that you can count on those times, or not that well?
The schedules are usually pretty solid.
Okay.
What I will tell you, however, is the schedules are overwhelming.
Mm.
I mean, it's huge. And that's why I'm doing this web page, is to reduce the fire hose to maybe a manageable flow.
Okay.
Great. Okay.
Awesome.
You then have
Thank you,
don't
Frank.
miss this.
We do have to move on, and I would suggest, Frank, I don't know if you want a bunch of emails sent to your home email, or if anybody has any questions for Frank, put them in the chat, and hopefully you can answer them in the chat. Or Frank, if you want to give your email, you could do that, and people could bug you forever.
The first page of the presentation should have my, let me stop my share. There we
Okay.
go. Yeah, the first page of the presentation has my email in it.
Okay, great.
Otherwise than that, I'll put it in right now.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Frank. It's great perspective to keep in mind kind of what's going on at the kind of international, global level. I appreciate that. We have, as I said earlier, we have some kind of national updates. We have some Oregon updates, but we're going to jump all the way down because one of our speakers has some time constraints. We're going to jump down to a presentation that Ken Barker is going to give us on an organization called Pachamama, Getting into Action Training, which is a great training. I know some of the people on the call have done this training. Ken's picking it up. He's super jazzed about it. And it really talks about taking these global ideas that will be discussed at COP and bringing it down to local. What can we do now? And that's kind of our wheelhouse in our chapter, is how do we get stuff done on a day-to-day basis in our own little lives? So Ken, take it away.
Great, thank you, Bill. I'm trying to screen share. Am I successful? No.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so everyone should see a Mount Hood picture. Okay, so basically, like Bill says, I'm real excited about this. It really dovetails into climate reality of really trying to promote getting into action. So we are with the different committees that Climate Reality set up, we are trying to help them maybe get more people into action, maybe join some of those committees. This is Pachamama course that Bill, I, Lou, and Amy have taken in the past. Really exciting, and gives you a lot of good information how to get into action, and also gives a lot of networking of people that are in action. Right now, Bill, I, and Lou, and Nick have taken that one step farther and have formed the Renewable Energy Committee. So it's a neat thing. So we're going to be starting this Sunday, not this Sunday, November 7th, 14th, 21st, December 5th, and 13th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. on Zoom. And let me give you a little information on Pachamama. Pachamama is Mother Earth. It's part of the language of an Andean tribe. Pachamama has worked with this Andean tribe for 20 years, trying to help them survive the extractive industries. And the Andean tribe came back to Pachamama and said, it's great you're helping us, but you also have to help the whole world get into action. So that kind of prompted Pachamama to get into action and to provide some wonderful training skills. So their vision, a world that works for everyone, an environmentally sustainable, spiritually fulfilling, socially just human present on this planet, which I think most of us agree with. It's a great thing. You can take a quick look at the mission and the purpose, but Pachamama is a great partner in this that has developed a lot of the videos and working we have for the upcoming course. We are also going to be working a lot with Drawdown, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. So the facilitators for this program would be myself, And I basically been involved with Pachamama, Climate Reality, also taking a lot of workshops with Solar Oregon and Electrify Now to get educated. My current actions are trying to get solar into public easements, minimizing food waste from store food donations and food pantries, and researching personal electric cars and bikes. Lou, who will be facilitating with me, is currently working with the Oregon Clean Power Cooperative and building statewide interfaith solar campaign. Also, Lou is working with Climate Reality Leadership to promote action in the Renewable Energy Group. And for the first 5 years of Lou's career, he spent on anti-nuclear weapons national lobbying. So you got two people that love getting action leading you, but again, it'll be a way to get everyone excited, and to support everyone into getting action. So it's a real neat program. Pachamama, I'm going to put a link to this video in the chat room. It's a good little video to get people excited about getting in action. So the overall goal of our course is we're going to connect with each other in the space of reversing global warming. We're going to launch into deep inquiry about possible ways we can contribute to reversing global warming by implementing specific local solutions that create social regeneration at the same time as ecological regeneration. So we're going to be focusing on, if we can, on the Portland area to see if we can do some great actions in the Portland area. This is a breakdown. We have 5 courses. This gives you a little breakdown of what we're talking about. We are going to talk about Drawdown, which is focused on solutions. Drawdown has identified these solutions that can bring us down to a more equitable planet and so forth. We're going to talk about climate justice. We're going to do a lot of breakout rooms so you can talk to each other about doing activities. We're also going to share with a big group. And we're hoping to actually continue this on a monthly, bi-monthly meetings to keep everyone excited about climate action and so forth. We are going to have some off Zoom time where we want you to do some research on some of your actions. So when we come back together, we could talk about specific actions and so forth. I'm going to put this little video trailer in the chat room. This is about a minute video on Drawdown. Drawdown is very, very active in promoting that we can bring down the climate issues so it is more of a level playing field and it doesn't go out of control. According to Drawdown and what things will be focused on, as you can see, refrigerants are one of the top.
Whoops. Hey, Ken, you there?
He's here, but his sound went out, so maybe he's having an
Yeah.
internet issue.
Yeah. It just froze up. You should be back in a moment.
Just so we have no dead downtime, I'm gonna interject his presentation. When he comes back in, I'll be quiet. But I wanted to give you a little bit of update of, oh, is he back? No, he's going around the bill. Okay, so a few weeks ago, Ken Berlin, who is I'm not sure his title, I think he's the president or director of Climate Reality in Washington, DC, gave a summary of what's going on in Washington, DC. And that summary included a focus on what's called the reconciliation bill in Congress. I'm sure you guys have heard about this in the news. It is absolutely the way that through a lot of complicated, I don't understand political processes. It's the way they fund programs that would help contribute to drawdown, for example. And he said they're focusing on 2 things. This is Climate Reality National is focusing on 2 things in the reconciliation bill. One is putting pressure on individuals in Congress, and the other is putting pressure on the Senate majority. And if you've been watching it, that means that Senator Manchin is getting a lot of conversation these days to keep the Democratic majority intact so that they can actually pass this reconciliation bill, which funds a bunch of clean tech and good things. So within that, that's what they're working on this week, literally. But the focus in the next couple of, like maybe 6 months out would be, they're very focused on environmental justice as it relates to climate change and getting legislation done by 2025 that would get the United States off fossil fuel by the year 2050. And I'm going to tie that together with our next speaker. I'm actually wondering if Ken's going to be able to get back to us.
He's been popping in and out. I think he's having technical difficulties. Like earlier, he would leave and come back.
Yeah, okay. Well, you know what? I'm gonna, Alan, you still there? I see your picture. I'm gonna pass the mic on over to you with just another segment of introduction and let you go. And if Ken comes back, then we'll just kind of let him finish his gig until he pops out again. Okay. Sorry about this. Hang tight. So
Okay.
just a second,
that'll
Alan,
be
let me,
fine.
if I can
Okay.
just introduce you for a second.
Sure.
So one of the things that we have felt we needed more muscles on in the Portland chapter was understanding Oregon legislative process and what's going on as it relates to climate change in Oregon. Alan is the director, founder, I guess, of the Southern Oregon Climate Action Now network, which is affiliated with the Southwest Oregon Climate Reality Chapter. So it's nice that we have some partnership down with the Southern Oregon folks. And Alan's focus has been the Oregon legislative process. So he's going to give us a little update on what's going on in the legislature there. And hopefully he will spark some interest from us collectively to help out when there's help to be had. So Alan, I leave it in your good hands.
Okay, thanks very much indeed. I appreciate it. Nice to be here. Frank, just a quick tip. You've got the pronunciation exactly correct. It is Glasgow. Just as another tip, don't call the residents of that country Scotch. That's a drink. The people are Scots or Scottish. Okay. They really get pissed off if you can't stop calling them Scotch. Okay, I'm going to talk a little about Oregon climate updates very quickly, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to do something, I hope. Okay, so let me just actually show the slideshow so we get the animation, which is always exciting. Okay, the Oregon 2021 legislative session ended in June. I think I've been following the Oregon legislative sessions since SOCANN was inaugurated back in 2012. And I think this is one of the best sessions that I have actually witnessed. If you have been paying much attention to what's been happening in the legislature over the last few years, you will know that every time a really meaningful climate legislative package gets to the floor of the chambers, the Republicans walk out and they break the quorum, and thus everything that was supposed to be discussed in the legislature gets thwarted. But what we found this time around was rather than try the technique of a big comprehensive bill covering all kinds of things, what the legislators did, and this action was initiated by our local House representative, Pam Marsh. What they did was break it up, and they actually addressed one small issue. The problem with the major multi-dimensional proposals is there are too many targets on it, and so everybody and their dog has a reason to be pissed off at that bill, and so they're much better off doing small piecemeal approaches, which is unfortunate, but that's political reality. So this bill requires that electricity generated and retailed in Oregon shall be 100% clean by 2040. And that is a major step forward. There are a lot of other aspects of that bill, but that was signed into law by the governor. And then there are a whole slew of other small bills that were passed. There were, of course, a number that we wanted to pass that didn't, but there were quite a number of other proposals. And if you want to learn more about what was passed at during the session, I'll shoot you. Here's a link to a website that has what happened in the legislative session this last session. And Bill has this PowerPoint. So if you want this link, he can give it to you, or you can shoot me an email. I'm incredibly easy to find, alan@socan.eco. So it was a good session overall. The main thing that's been happening lately, of course, is what's called the Oregon Climate Action Plan, or OCAP. Governor Brown, following 2 years in which great proposals were thwarted by the Republican walkout, Governor Brown signed Executive Order 2004, March 2020. And what this executive order does is it charges the agencies and commissions, 16 of them in Oregon, that by 2035, we shall be at least 45% below 1990 greenhouse gas emissions. And by 2050, we shall be 80%, at least 80% below 1990 emissions levels. Now, if you are paying attention to the IPCC that Frank has been talking about, what you will realize is the latest current IPCC report tells us that actually, in order to to limit global warming to that magic 1.5 degrees centigrade above pre-industrial levels, we have actually, for a 50% chance at achieving that limit, we have until 2030 to get to net zero emissions. So we don't have time to screw around. This executive order also promotes carbon sequestration in our natural and working lands, meaning in our agriculture and our forests and our wetlands. It also requires that the agencies apply a social justice lens to everything they do, and they consider cost effectiveness. I mentioned this, there were 16 state agencies that were charged to use their authority to establish programs. And what's been happening over the last year and a few months is the agencies have been working on developing their programs to greater or lesser effectiveness. DEQ has released its climate protection program rules. They're now up for public comment. The public comment ends on October the 4th, and there are a couple of other opportunities coming right up starting tomorrow. So there are, what we are asking folks to do, and when I say we, I'm talking about the statewide coalition of grassroots activists that have been monitoring what the agencies have been doing. We're asking folks to take every opportunity they can, and I'm going to give you some opportunities to send or testify at hearings, send comments to DEQ or testify at hearings about the program. The first opportunity to give testimony is tomorrow between 4 and 7 p.m. They did have advanced registration open. They had a couple of slots, 45-minute periods where you could register to give testimony. But now those are closed because the slots are all full. But if you sign up, if you go to the meeting, you will be able to put your name down to give testimony. Then that was the DEQ hearing, the Department of Environmental Quality hearing. Then coming up on the 30th, the Environmental Quality Commission will be holding a hearing, 4 to 7, the same thing. There are opportunities to sign up to give testimony there. And I'm going to give you a link. I sent you a link through the chat. If you go to that link, which is socan.eco/CPP comments, you will find a lot of information about how to comment and some background on the DEQ program. The big chance is to submit comments to DEQ in writing by 4 p.m. on October the 4th. The deadline is 4 p.m. So if you don't get your comments in by then, they won't be considered. This is the address to send them by email. If you are a snail mail person and you get on it quickly, you could send them in by snail mail. Okay, and here's the link that I sent in the chat. If you want more information on all of this, this is the place to go. And what I'm going to do with a bit of luck is take us to that site. Now, here's a question. Can you see the Oregon Climate Action Plan page on the SOCANN website?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so if you come to that website, which as you can see up here, CPP-comments, what this does is give you some links. If you're interested in giving testimony, and I strongly encourage you to do that, and the reason that I strongly encourage you to do that is because you know two things. One, the folks are going to be taking a tally of the people who give testimony in favor of the proposal, for strengthening it, or for weakening it. And we know that Timber Unity, our friends at Timber Unity and the industries are going to be there in force speaking against the program, speaking to weaken it. We want to get testimony to strengthen it. Now, a lot of people, I think, who haven't done this kind of thing before might well be a little intimidated by the idea of giving public testimony. And I will say that that you don't need to be too concerned, because you will get 2 minutes, maybe 3, but probably 2 minutes. You won't get any gotcha questions. There isn't time for that. You will get your 2 minutes to say what you want to say, and you won't get any longer than 2 minutes. So if you have a chance, please consider, these are Zoom meetings, so please consider going to the meetings and giving testimony. Monday, October the 4th, as I said, is the deadline for written testimony. My wife and co-facilitator Kathy Conway has just thrown up a little link here for quick comment tips. If you don't have time to spend researching on the SOCANN website what the DEQ program does, but you really want to get in some quick tips to counter timber unity in industry in favor of making the program stronger, go to these little notes that Kathy just put up. I'm trying to get to it now. Here we go. Go to this, and Kathy has developed a nice little part 1, 2, 3, and 4 cookie on how to write comments and then submit them to the target, which you can see is down here. Again, must be in by 4 p.m. on October the 4th. Okay, so I will pause now.
Yeah, hey, Alan, that's great. I really appreciate your time. I think
I'm trying to get out of this sharing.
the idea for the chapter.
Stop share, got it.
The idea for the chapter is that Alan will be ahead of the game on, when to give oral testimony or write letters, and bring that to us, and we'll be able to organize in time that we can actually do those things. So I appreciate your perspective, Alan, in keeping a radar out for what's going on, and hopefully we'll get some action going here. To add to that, we do not currently have anyone who is chairing or leading our legislative action work, which is one reason why we brought Alan in. We are looking for someone who would be willing to take Alan's wisdom and turn it into specific actions we can do, and we will talk about them in our monthly meetings. Like, okay, this month, letter writing campaign, we're all gonna see who can speak, whatever it might be. We're looking for someone who can do that. So if you are interested in that, send me or Amy your email and we can chat further. I'm going to put my email in the chat.
And there's people who have been in the chat room commenting who sound like they have a lot of knowledge about this as
Yes.
well. So I can see that being a committee that could join together.
Yeah, it looks like there are a lot of well-versed people in this that could help us out. So let us know. And if you have any questions for Alan, if we finish before our appointed 8:30 time, which I'm not sure that's gonna happen, but if we do, we'd love to hang out and answer any questions, Alan. That'll work for you?
Yeah, could I ask if
Sure.
anybody has a question? I'm gonna put my, okay, I've sent you the link to that. I'm gonna put my email in here. I'm running out of bandwidth because I live out in the country.
Yes.
So I'm gonna have to drop off, but I will encourage anybody who has questions to please shoot me an email at this address. I'm incredibly easy to find, as I said, and I'll be more than happy to respond. But I'm sorry, I do have to bug out, otherwise I'll just run out of bandwidth.
Well, thank you for your time, Alan. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Great to be here. Thanks very much indeed, guys.
And I have a rumor that Ken is back and ready to finish his presentation. Is that true, Ken? Not sure he's talking. You're on mute.
I can definitely try it. I'm wondering whether my PowerPoint is exceeding my bandwidth, but I will, let's give it a try.
Do you wanna wrap it up on the quick, just so we can get
Right,
moving on and send the
okay,
Pachamama attachments? That might be
perfect,
better.
great, thank you, Bill.
Okay.
So let's see, where did that go? So basically just kind of a plug. We're hoping you folks will join us. If you have questions, I put my email in the chat. That's just climategia@gmail.com. So please send me questions, especially if you want to sign up. That's how we're doing signups for that. Again, we are looking at November 7th, 14th, 21st, December 5th, and 13th of 2021 from 7 to 8:30 p.m. No cost, but we do want people to pre-register and be kind of committed for those timeframes. But it's been a very successful course, and we're hoping to get some folks involved. I don't know if we have questions, time for one or two questions, Bill, or if we do we have any questions I can?
Holly just raised her hand. You have a question, Holly? Looks like she doesn't. You're on
okay.
mute, so I couldn't tell. You're good. Okay.
Well, if anyone does, please send me an email. And I know Bill and Amy and Lou are very aware of this program, so they can also answer questions too. But we're hoping to get some folks getting into action. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. Yeah, quick, if you haven't figured out that it's a bit of a plug from over here, but it's a good program. Get you going. We have one more presenter for our renewable energy working group. I want to get through a couple more things that line that up. And Amy, would you be willing to give a website update now? Would that work for you?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I don't know how to unpin you from the speaker thing, but
Oh my God.
I've been in charge of the website for a few years, and it's sort of been not in great shape, but no one's really had time to devote to it. And we've been looking for someone for years. And so pleased that Nick Keenan is a new climate reality leader and also an expert, a developer. He runs his own business. I don't think you want me to plug it, but you're welcome to, because he created a robust website that's going to have so many features, and he's going to give us a little preview, a sneak peek of it. I have some experience. I'm a graphic designer by profession, so I can get in there and kind of update images and things, but we really could use people who have database or tech knowledge, some help with getting that website up and running. So Nick, do you want to talk about that? And I just want to thank you publicly for all this work you've put into it already.
You're so kind. It was easily done on our side. So this is something that is coming fairly soon. Basically, we're going to be seeing some new upcoming events and meetups, some more information on those items, as well as different calls to action. One of the really important things is that our different committees and working groups will have their own sort of landing pages. Let's see here. This is some examples here so that people can get involved with the topics that they're really interested in and dive right in. There's so much information we're covering in this meeting, and there's things that we do in between the meetings. So we really want to sort of expose that and give ourselves a hub that really support our work.
Excellent. So that's something to look forward to. Hey, there was a question in the chat from Michael. Who answers or responds to the chapter email? I'm thinking that's you, Amy, correct?
It's usually me.
Yeah.
Yes. And that might come later when Bernadette's talking about engagement. That's been something we're trying to streamline so that it's not something where if I'm gone for 3 or 4 days and something gets missed, there's no reply. So
Gotcha. Okay, well, Nick, since you were showing us the website there, and there's a lot of renewable energy working group information on that website, would you be ready to give a opening pitch for the renewable energy working group? And as an aside, as we take on ideas and create them into one person has an idea and multiple people start working on it, and it rises to the level of serious actions that we're taking as an organization, I'm looking to the way that Nick started up the renewable energy working group as a way to do that. And he's done it with, a mission, vision kind of statements that focus on the work he's doing so that we can stay focused on climate change, which sometimes without that, you can drift away from the topic. So Nick, props to you for the work you've done on that. You get a lot of props today, Nick. And go ahead and introduce us to the Renewable Energy Working Group.
Sure thing. So this is an informal group that's been talking about different solar projects throughout the state, and some folks here are on it. Ken, Lou, welcome, and thanks for being here. We meet bi-weekly, and we're at all different skill levels in renewable energy. So it's a fairly informal conversation, and we really need a lot of different perspectives, as you'll see. So our main goal is to make sure that all of our Oregon communities are ready for this big upcoming renewable energy transition that's coming. One of the things that we're really focused on is this sort of, this is the entire carbon footprint, greenhouse gas footprint of Oregon, and some projections. Hopefully we are going to be hitting this 2050 goal. But if you look at our electricity use, that's around 30% of our greenhouse gas emissions in the state. And if you also think ahead to transportation, if we make those all electrical vehicles, we need a lot of generation and storage to be able to support those. So there's a huge gap between now and where we need to go. We have amazing legislative news this summer. The 100% Clean Energy for All bill, HB 2021, is going to help us at least mandate that we need to get to 100% clean energy by 2040. The legislature actually did their job. We got it happen, but does that mean that this is going to happen? And as we sort of dig, I'm pretty new to this space myself, and as I've been digging into the conversations, it's become very, very clear that the legislature is not their role is not to create a plan to meet this target, and no one else really has a plan to meet this target. So we're all sort of dependent on these giant monopoly utilities to drive the process, and they're not incentivized to do that quickly. There's a lot of really great energy programs in the state, but they really desperately need sustained vocal public support, or they're not going to be viable. So what we're trying to do as a group is explore the space, see what else is out there, explore what organizations need help. There's tons of small community organizations that really need all kinds of different assistance, from expertise to just boots on the ground. We want to be building awareness about all these actions we can take together, so that we can quickly and affordably and resiliently move all of these communities away from fossil fuels at scale in the state. So as an example, we are taking a look at this wonderful program, the Oregon Community Solar Program. I have some interesting news about this today. It's basically Oregon, it's a CSA approach, community supported agriculture approach for solar energy. So the way it is designed to work, energy customers, you don't need a house, you can be a renter. If you pay for energy, if you have an energy bill, you can subscribe to a local energy producer and send all your energy money towards that local solar producer. That then goes to that instead of the utility methane plants. And you also save money on your energy bill. So it's sort of a win-win. Most customers are going to save 5%, but they just today agreed that they are going to be lowering for low-income customers. If you qualify as a low-income household, normally there was a 20% reduction in your energy bill. Today, as of today, in the future, that will become 40%. So it's a massive cost savings for low-income renters and homeowners. How are we going to do all of this? What we do in the working group, we really want to focus on recruiting expertise and different perspectives. We really need both people who are experienced solar project managers, but we also need people who are renters, who pay energy bills and are connected to communities in order to do this work. So we need all kinds of perspectives through this process. We are building a network of all of the different organizations that are working on different aspects of this space. It's an immensely complex problem. So knowing all of the different moving parts is really important. And we're developing some assets and some actions for everyone to take in a sort of campaign format. And of course, just spending time supporting each other through that process. The way that we have built our first campaign, and we'll have many more campaigns together, and we'll be asking the chapter to help us with this, is this 4-layer drawdown style campaign, where you have very, very easy, quick personal actions that you can take. But if you have a little bit more time, you can expand that to the community around you. Your coworkers, your family, all of those folks, or you can, if you have more time yet still, there's plenty of actions to be done at the state and national levels as well. Some personal actions that we're taking, we're developing a flyer that you can quickly download to explain this program and what it means. And the easiest thing you can do is sign yourself up. There is a website, commonenergy.us. We just heard today that the Oregon Public Utility Commission is releasing the second tranche, which we were really, really hoping they were going to do. There was a lot of deliberation, and PGE went in there and said, don't do it yet. It's not a good idea. And everybody else was like, please make this happen. This is the only thing that we as individuals can do in this state to get ourselves on solar. So you can go ahead and sign up for this process yourself, be a guinea pig. I'm a guinea pig, and learn about the process and how it works. If you have more time, you can take those flyers and distribute them to a community. You can take them to 20 houses. In order for this program to be viable, what they're going to be measuring is we need to sign up around 40,000 households in Oregon to have 50% residential use of this program, or they're not going to expand it further, and then it's going to die. Common Energy even gives you a bonus for referrals. If you want to do more, please join our working group and we can together help identify actions. You can bring your own actions to the group. If you have things that you are passionate about in the space of energy generation or storage or new technologies like that, we'd love to have you and have your brain and have your heart. We're watching, again, policy decisions at the Oregon Public Utility Commission and doing stuff at that level as well. And of course, there's plenty of legislative action that we're going to be looking at. Our goal is to help build an Oregon model that works for the economy and the environment, and then other states will be able to take that blueprint and run with it and copy it in their own states and sort of move forward with it. So I'm going to take my screen offline. And then I think if you're interested in joining our conversation, I'm going to put my email in the chat. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'd love to talk with you one-on-one and hear what you're interested in. And there's also Lou and Ken. We're all here.
Yeah.
Nice
So,
work.
Yeah, Nick, thanks for running through that. I think it's great. Looks really good. We spent a lot of time looking at ways that we can get people active, empowered, and tangible things that folks can do. So I would just like to make a pitch for all of you to participate with our conversation and know that the 4 things that Nick put up that we are going to be doing is recruiting folks, developing, helping them get educated, and giving them tangible things that they can do, and as well as providing a support network to help each of us kind of stay connected and accountable to taking those steps. So we're really hoping to change people from people who are concerned and not knowing what to do to people who are taking action and feeling supported and moving down a continuum of greater action. So we really encourage you all to be supportive of our work. And just to connect the dot, what Ken was talking about earlier is a manifestation of that by doing this Pachamama group, where we have individuals show up, get educated, and are really there to take on and do projects. We believe that if we empower folks to do what they can, they will feel stronger, and more people will work to what Frank was talking about earlier, which is it's got to happen at the individual level. So, yeah.
Right, excellent. Hey, Nick, when is your guys' next meeting?
We had our last one this morning, so it's in exactly 2 weeks. We have it currently at 8:15 on every other Tuesday.
Gotcha.
Via Zoom.
So email to you and you'll send the Zoom link out.
That's exactly it.
Excellent. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Nick. Good work. I'm looking forward to 40,000 you put out there as the goal, 40,000 households. I like that. Okay, next, I wanted to introduce the work that Bernadette's been doing on engagement. One of the things we wanted to do is, as people signed up through the national organization and we got people's names that were interested in climate change, we wanted to streamline our process for getting people out into our working groups. And Bernadette's been working on that. So if you can give us a quick summary of what that work looks like, that'd be great. Bernadette, thank you.
Hi, everybody. It's great to see you all here. Yeah, I haven't been working on it too much yet, which is part of the problem. But the idea is that we have our interest form, and we have, first of all, we have a great turnout here tonight. So it's wonderful to see all these folks here, and our chapter is growing. This is a pretty good turnout. And we have just between last year and this year, I think 80 people have filled out our Google interest form. But not all of those folks are engaged. And the interest form itself is a little bit out of date because it has teams on there that aren't really active right now. So we kind of, I have a couple of objectives. One is to update the interest form so it works a little bit better. Another is, like Bill said, to try and streamline a connection between folks that find us through the Climate Reality National page. And then we get a list of those names from the National, Climate Reality Project. But they don't necessarily find our webpage and find that interest form. So then we have to do the outreach to them. They do get the newsletter because Amy adds them in, which is great, but doing more personal outreach to try and connect those folks. And then the third thing is kind of going back through folks that have filled out our form and aren't active and see, if we can get people re-engaged and stuff like that. So it's sort of a multi-pronged approach, and it's going fairly slowly. I don't have a lot of time to put into it, but if anyone is interested in helping with membership engagement, I would welcome your help. Please reach out to me. I'll add my and if you have suggestions, of how best to do these things or experience with it, I'd welcome that as well. But we're hoping, along with the website being updated, the new website coming out, we'll have an updated interest form. And then the outreach part of it is just kind of an ongoing thing that we're working on. I think
Excellent.
that's all I had on that.
Thank
Unless
you,
anybody has
Bernadette.
any questions.
Do you want to put a
Okay.
link to the interest form, Bernadette, or do you want me to?
Yep, I think I have it all ready to go. So there's the link to the form. If anybody's here that hasn't actually filled it out already, you can go there and fill out the one that we have right now. Just know that a couple of those groups that are listed are not currently active. Our currently active groups are the Renewable Energy Group that Nick was just talking about, a Climate and Education in Schools group, a Plastics Reduction group, and a Climate Friendly Food. I think those are the 4 right now that are actually, have leadership and are moving along. So just to be aware of that, but yeah, please fill out the form if you haven't already, and then let me know if you're interested in helping out with this. Thanks.
Thanks, Bernadette. That kind of gets us a transition to another one of our working groups, Climate Friendly Food, led by Craig. Craig, you have an update for us? Quick update on what you guys are up to?
Yeah, just a couple things. We've had a very great, consistent group of participants the last few months. And something that we've started focusing on is preparing for our part of the chapter website. And we are creating a climate-friendly food webpage that will showcase recipes from our committee's members and include the carbon footprint of those recipes. So that's something you can look forward to when the website goes live. But then with that being said, we have made the decision to stop with our Cook and Serve program. So a couple of months ago, we stopped putting energy towards that and instead are investing it in this new recipe webpage.
Excellent.
So that's it for us.
Excellent. So Lynn Merrick couldn't be here today, and she leads up the education working group. And so I have a little update that she sent me. I'm going to read to y'all, and you can kind of take it in and have good thoughts towards her. So a little bit of a pitch here, but are you interested in helping youth learn about climate solutions? Join our education team. The Climate Reality Project Portland chapter is a partner with SAGE Vision 2030 team. This year, in partnership with Portland Public Schools, we will share with high school students a district-wide monthly climate career series, 2 hands-on climate solution fairs for middle schools, and 50+ classroom presentations on a regional climate action plan in a number of like 60-second TikTok videos. So apparently Lynn is getting hip to TikTok, which it's, we can all learn. We'd love to have you come as a volunteer. Contact Lynn Merrick at collabnow.com. I'll put it in the chat. Volunteer training is a week of October 25th. And there's more information on the SAGE website, which I'll put in the chat room. So that is Education Working Group update. We have a plastics working group that has been in need of a little energy, and Melissa Nash is providing that energy. But if there's anybody interested in reducing the use of plastics, as we learned a couple of meetings ago, plastics really does, and actually in the climate reality training, plastics adds a lot to the energy use of our country. So we are looking to reduce the amount of plastics we use. That's kind of the focus that Melissa's going to have. She needs some more people to help her out there. If you're interested, send a note to me. I'll pass it on to her. I don't want to give her email address. I'll give you mine. That's plastics. Not much of an update, but a call out for some help. The last thing I wanted to mention, Amy, you could probably help most with this, is we have a kind of a technical group that does all the technical stuff for our meetings, which has been really Zoom focused in the last year or so.
We do have a technical group.
Well, we would like to have a technical group. Sorry, we have an idea for a technical group, and we don't have people who are inclined that way. So if there's anybody who is interested, please hit me up or Amy, because could always use a little technical troubleshooting now and again. I did want to have, I guess Amy posted it, so I guess she gets to talk about it, but what's it called? The climate strike. That's going on Friday. Can you give us a little detail on that?
There might be somebody here who knows more about it. The global climate strike, I do know, is well, obviously it's global, and so we're all striking at the same time. But I've attended it in the past, and I know that my kids are in high school. Well, one just graduated, and the high school kids are planning to walk out and head down there. So it's a really big movement, and I think it would be important for us to have a presence there. And Craig was saying maybe he will be there. He has a banner. But can anyone else give a little bit more information about the global climate strike besides that it's global?
I just put a little bit in the chat from an email I got today from 350 PDX. So the local one here looks like it's meeting in front of the Oregon Convention Center, and then they'll march probably across the Broadway Bridge down to City Hall. So they're starting at 11 a.m. on Friday. It'll be led by the local school kids, but everyone, of course, all ages are welcome to support them and follow them down the road. And they'll be marching into City Hall. So it looks like sort of between 11 and 12.
I think they'll have youth speaking, some youth leaders speaking.
At City Hall and out front of City Hall, I'm sure there will be, yeah.
It gets in the news. It's really good to have a big presence there.
Absolutely, and the one last year was great. There was a nice big one last year, I'm sure. I haven't heard as much about the one this year. I just got this email today about it, so I feel like it hasn't been promoted as much, but hopefully there'll be a good turnout again this year.
And I think this is also part of the Fridays for Our Future movement by Greta Thunberg. So I think there are marches happening all over the world, not US and internationally. Though I agree with Bernadette, I don't think it's been promoted until fairly recently, but hopefully we can get a big turnout.
Yeah, there's definitely a huge one happening in New York with the UN Climate Week this week in New York. So, there will be ones happening all over. I just haven't heard too much about the one here today, but it's not till Friday. There's still time. Spread the word.
Is there an organization that's heading that up, or is it like youth group? Or youth groups?
Global Climate Strike. It says, the link I got says follow Portland Youth Climate Strike on Instagram for updates.
Portland Youth Climate Strike. Okay, great. Excellent.
Link to Fridays for Future. Walter mentioned that they might be the ones who started that too.
Excellent. Excellent.
Oh.
So we are always up for suggestions, chances to improve, questions, concerns. Any of you have, please send them to myself or to Amy. I put my email in the chat. Amy, I think if you could put your email in the chat, I'll do it again. So are there any questions, comments, concerns anybody wants to voice at this point? Oh, sorry. I did want to call out that over the last 6 months, Allison, you have been helping us, you and your wonderfulness have been helping the leadership team through a process. Do you want to describe that real quick?
Absolutely. Let me drop a link in the chat. So very quickly, because I know we're almost out of time here. We've been working on the bylaws. So the leadership team, we have an elected leadership team, and that happened, goodness, in the June timeframe, I suppose, for our first time for this chapter. And the leadership team has worked really hard to establish a set of bylaws, and I dropped the link in the chat for you, which includes a mission statement, a vision statement using resources from the National Climate Reality Vision, as well as working with the LA chapter of Climate Reality. And the bylaws describe the various positions on the leadership team, including how committees run and what various leads do to support the chapter. The bylaws also cover elections, when they're held, how decisions are made, how committees are established, timelines, and then just kind of a general executing of the tenets of the bylaws. And so we've worked pretty hard at trying to put that together, having this be the first time this chapter has had it. And so if you want to check out the bylaws, there's the link.
Yeah, and just real quick to add to that, about 4 or 5 months ago, Alan Journet sent an email to me asking the Portland chapter to sign up for a letter he was sending to Kate Brown. And I was like, yeah. And he was saying some things like we had a question come to us, hey, do you guys support nuclear? And questions like that, really one person shouldn't hold the burden of answering that question. So we have, in the bylaws, we have a process for how we make decisions. And the decision we made was to support the letter Alan was sending to the governor, and it all worked perfectly. And we were able to make a decision on that in a short amount of time. It's good to know that decisions aren't being made like on somebody's whim. So we do have a process for that, and you're welcome to be involved. Yes, thank you. We do have room for more people on the leadership team if you are interested. Thank you, Bernadette. So at this point, I think we're done. It's 8:30. Wow, look at that. I didn't think we were going to finish by 8:30 today.
I think, did you need to call for more mentors, or they set it?
Oh, that's a good point. So there is a new global climate reality training that's going on in like October, November, and they have closed the signups for that training, and they've also closed the signups for mentoring people on that training. So there really isn't an update. Unfortunately, the timing of our meeting here didn't work out great to introduce that, but we will in the future be able to be on a better schedule for that. Yeah, so it's great to see y'all. See you in a month. There'll be more stuff happening, and we'll be excited to talk about it. Maybe we'll leave a little more time for a little conversation amongst ourselves for next time. Okay?
Thank you,
See you
Bill.
guys.
Good
Yeah.
job. Perfect timing.
Take it easy.
Great to
Bye,
see
everyone.
everybody.
Have a good fall.
See you next month.
Yeah.
Holly, I saw that I sent you a message. If you have a second before you disconnect, I saw that you